Hi, my name is Ebony, and today I will be telling you guys about my daughter who was born sleeping. She was stillbirth, and she was born on October 10th, 2017. I wanted to record this video for quite a while now, but I just didn't ever have the strength to do it. It's one of the hardest things I ever had to go through in life. I was 29 weeks and 6 days, so you could say almost 30 weeks, a day away from 30 weeks pregnant. And I just didn't think that would happen to me. I named her Aviana, and during my pregnancy, she was a really active baby. You know, I bonded with her, from when I was pregnant. I just had a feeling she was going to be a girl, and I automatically came up with that name. I really wanted to name her Ava, but her dad couldn't really agree on that being her name. So Aviana, out of all my kids, she was like the most active. She moved all the time, nonstop. I remember even when I was getting the ultrasound and the nurses was like, oh my goodness, like she moved a lot. So that morning of October 9th, the day before I had the C-section, I noticed the decreased movement, and I just felt something wasn't right. And I was starting my third job. I was already working 2 jobs, and I was starting my third job. And, I was like, I don't want to call in on my first day. We was doing training. Maybe she's just sleeping. I went through this before with my oldest, with decreased movement. And when I went in, they said everything was fine. Sometimes the babies, they sleep. So I was like, okay, maybe she's just sleeping. I did drink some juice, and it just wasn't no kicks or nothing going on. I did feel like I felt like little flutters here and there, but I was like almost, 30. I was basically like 30 weeks, so I was used to her kicking me, moving around in there. So I just knew something wasn't right. But I went to the training, and the whole day was on my mind. So after the training, I called the doctor, and, they told me, the usual, lay down or drink juice and stuff. And if you don't feel any changes, to come in. And I just regretted so much because I didn't go in that day, because I thought I did feel some movement that night, even though it wasn't forced, like kicking. It's like I felt something, so I was like, well, maybe that's her movement. But later on, the nurse explained to me why I felt those movements, that it wasn't her kicking, But so I didn't go in, and all night I tossed and turned. I was crying that whole night, because it's like I just had a feeling like something was wrong. And I'm like, well, something can't be wrong, because I felt those little movements. So I didn't go in, and that morning came, I had made pancakes, and oh my gosh, that was her favorite meal. It's still hard for me to eat pancakes and with syrup to this day. And she did not kick me, and I was like, something is wrong. Something is wrong. So, I went into labor and delivery. I went alone, and when I went in, I told them I was, not feeling the baby move. So they brought me upstairs, but it's like it wasn't no rooms open, so I had to wait, uh, quite a while. So when they finally took me in the room, they hooked me up to the monitor thing where they find the heartbeat, and she couldn't find it. She just heard my heartbeat, and that it's just, I'm like, how is it when I'm so far along? So it was a lady next to me, you know, in the room, and you could hear her monitor going on. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, hers is going on and mine's is not. It gotta be something wrong. Yeah, so the nurse went out the room, you know, then she came back about 5 minutes later, and she was trying again. She tried for a long time. She really did. And she could not find the heartbeat. So she was like, we're going to call up ultrasound. And I'm like, okay. So as I'm sitting there, I'm just like, this can't be possible. It just can't be possible. How can you not find the heartbeat when I'm this far along? So ultrasound came up. And, they put the gel on my stomach, and they checking, the baby, and I'm like, well, can I see the screen? And she would not let me see it. And I just wanted to see it. I'm like, well, why can't I see it? She's like, I can't show you now. I'll show you in a minute. And then she just turns it off and leaves. And I'm just like, she didn't even show me. And the nurse comes in and she's crying. And I'm like, no, it just can't be. And she's like, the baby has no heartbeat. And I'm like, how? I'm like, how is this even possible? And she like, it has no heartbeat. I'm so sorry. And she's like, I'm just so sorry, and we're calling the doctor now, and it's not your fault. Sometimes this happens. And I'm like, I wasn't doing anything wrong. The doctor said it was, everything was looking great at my last checkup. I did have an incident where I was like 3 months. I was bleeding. I had like 2 blood clots. But I went to the emergency room then. Everything was good. Then again, at 5 months, I was bleeding. And I was put on light duty at work. So at both of my jobs, I was light duty. So then when I started the other job, I was going to be light duty. So I don't, I just couldn't understand. Like, when I was 5 months and I started bleeding again, I thought I was going to lose her. And I didn't. So it's like, this was just crazy to me. It was so heartbreaking. It's like my world just came crashing down, and to think I had to have a C-section because I was so far along. And just right then and there, it wasn't my doctor, it was another doctor who was on call because my doctor wasn't there. And she came in the room, and explained that it was no heartbeat, and it's not safe to keep the baby in there too long because they don't know when the heart could have stopped. And I had to have the C-section because I already previously had 2 C-sections, and she didn't think it would be safe to push. So they like prepped me for the C-section. It was like the hardest thing you could go through. Just knowing you're gonna have to go through this major surgery to not even bring your child home. So I got prepped for the C-section. I went through it, and as they was pulling her out, I heard them say that the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck 3 times, and the umbilical cord was short, and it wrapped around her neck 3 times, and that's why she didn't make it. And I just, oh my God, I just couldn't understand. So it was just terrible for me, and I just can't stop thinking about it. That day was like the worst day ever, and me and my boyfriend was just heartbroken. He met me at the hospital, just in time before they did the C-section. We had to get a babysitter, and we found the sitter, so he came, and it was just so heartbreaking for us. And I had spent 3 days in the hospital because of the C-section. They was nice enough to put me in the pediatrics so I wouldn't be on the maternity floor, seeing other moms, with the babies in the room and stuff. So that was really thoughtful of them. They also allowed me to, have her in the room with me. I kept her in the room for about no longer than an hour because the lady did explain that, it could, be harder if I keep her in there any longer. And then after a while, the body would start to, smell and decay more. So they wanted to get her, put up until the funeral home, because I had to make funeral arrangements because I was past gestational stage, I think it's called, sorry. And I wound up finding a funeral home. They did a service for me, and I wound up getting her cremated. I didn't really want to get her buried. And yeah, it's just hard. I didn't really know that I didn't really think that this could happen to me. I heard of stillbirth before, but until this happened to me and I actually researched about it, I didn't know that it happened this much, to women around the world. I didn't know it happened this much. So reading those stories really helped me learn that I wasn't alone. And sometimes I do blame myself because I didn't go to the hospital that day. And the lady and the doctors did tell me, like, please don't blame yourself. You don't know what day this happened. And sorry, back. Sorry, my son was calling me, but the doctor did say, you can't blame yourself. You don't know if her heart stopped the day before he told you to come in, but it's like I just can't help but to be so mad at myself that I thought I felt the movement, and instead of me being extra cautious, I just said, okay, I think that was the movement, and I didn't go in. And, you know, because I knew how she moved. I knew she was, very active. Like, she moved all the time. Like, all the time. So I should have just went. I should have just went instead of thinking that, maybe she's taking a rest, maybe she's sleeping. Because maybe she still would have had some kind of heartbeat if I would have just went in the night before. And that's just something I think I'm going to have to deal with that for the rest of my life. It's going to always bother me. It's going to always bother me. But, Aviana will always be in my heart. I have a picture of her on my wall. That's her teddy bear behind me that I had, I have got her this teddy bear. I also got a box from the hospital where they put her footprints and in the box, and I also got a piece of her hair from the funeral home before she was cremated. They also let me keep the blanket she was wrapped in after I gave birth to her, and the hat that they put on her head. It just hurts really bad, and to think like some people even said like, it's like they just felt it's foolish, and they just felt like because I already had 3 kids that it shouldn't affect me as much. Like, that's crazy to me. Whether she was my first, second, third child, 4th child, that was my child. I loved her dearly. We bonded so much. I spoke to her every day. She was like, she's my everything. My kids are my everything. I always called her Aviana when I spoke to her. We had a connection. I wanted her so bad. I wanted her so bad, as much as I did my other kids. And it just hurt so bad that I had to go through a C-section to not bring her home. And I keep her picture on my wall, so I could, I see her every day. It's on my living room wall. And I really don't care who has a problem with seeing it. That is my child. Just like my other kids that's on my living room wall, she is too. She is my baby. Whether or not she was born sleeping. Some people are so heartless. Just because, she wasn't alive when she was born, they don't know the bond that you have with that baby when they're growing inside of you. She is just much as a human as my other 3 kids. And I don't think people understand that unless, they go through it themselves, Some people is just, but I I do want to thank you guys for listening to my story. You know, it's really hard. It's really hard, but I'm taking it a day at a time, and I'm hoping that things will get better. She will forever and always will be in my heart. I think about her every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her. It's really hard. Even when I see other little girls who's around like the age 1 or 2, or if I even see a commercial with a baby and I just break down. I break down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she didn't even get the chance. She made it that far along to not even be born alive, like that many weeks, she didn't even get the chance. But thanks for watching my video. And to all the stillbirth mothers, you're not alone.